これからは何と名乗る？ディオゴ。
ならばYasukeと。
Alright, pull up a chair, grab a drink, come sit with me for a little bit as we talk about an ongoing controversy that's going on in the gaming community right now that I feel is a bit ridiculous. We're going to talk about the Assassin's Creed Shadows controversy, but we're also going to talk about why I believe that YouTubers and YouTube culture and video game reviews on YouTube have destroyed video games and gamers in general. I've seen this happening over the years, and it was happening to me for a while, and I almost fell into the trap, but eventually I stepped away from video games, I stepped away from YouTube, I stepped away from everything, and I got out of it. But a lot of people are still in that bubble. They're still in that loop of, new game comes out, let's find controversy, let's hate game, let's hope game fails, let's hope company fails. It's a very destructive mindset that is destroying some of the best companies that ever existed in video games. Now, do these companies make questionable decisions? Yes, without a doubt they do. They do every day. And sometimes their internal culture is toxic. No one's denying that. But to openly advocate for and push for a company's failure or a company's bankruptcy or for them to go out of business simply because they've made a decision that you don't agree with or a game that you don't like or because they made a mistake somewhere, in my opinion, is a bit ridiculous. And that's not to say that these companies don't deserve criticism when they do make a mistake or they do make something that people don't like. They definitely deserve to hear it. But to wish for their failure? And to literally say some of the things that people have said to some of these developers and about the company and whatnot, it crosses a line where things become clear that it's no longer about improving the game or the company, but instead it's all about destruction and hurting an individual because they made a decision or a choice that someone somewhere didn't particularly agree with. And I find that incredibly wrong.
If I'm being honest with you guys, I just don't believe that this hate and controversy surrounding AC Shadows is genuine. I believe it's fake outrage, pushed by YouTubers for clicks and views. They don't actually believe what they're saying, nor do they care about Japanese culture or the cultural inaccuracies in this game. It's nitpicking. It's simply trying to find reasons to hate this game so that they can convince you to hate the game as well. This is why I think when YouTubers get to a certain point, they stop becoming gamers and they more or less become propagandists who push agendas to sell videos rather than honesty, truth, and objective feelings. Take Assassin's Creed Origins, for example. You can literally free run up the Pyramid of Giza and actually explore the inside of this thing. A tomb for some of Egypt's greatest leaders, and you could walk all over it like it's meaningless. Is that not offensive to the Egyptians? Or what about Greece and Odyssey? Or how about England and Valhalla? I'm sure all of these games are filled with a lot of cultural inaccuracies that no one gave two shits about. So why the argument here? It's because they need to nitpick and find a reason to dislike this game to convince you it's a bad game when it's really not. There's definitely much to criticize about AC Shadows, and I think if anyone wants to do that in a genuine way, I'm open to hear it. But so far all I've seen is YouTube filled with a bunch of videos that are just trying to capitalize off the hate because rage bait sells.
Now, I'm not going to say that someone somewhere at Ubisoft wasn't pushing a personal agenda, because I'm sure that they were. But I also think that someone somewhere thought adding a black samurai to an Assassin's Creed game that takes place in Japan was a cool idea. In my opinion, it's unorthodox. It's out of the box, but it is an interesting idea, one that I'm willing to see through. However, it may have been a mistake. To wish the worst on somebody who's made a mistake or made a decision that you don't necessarily agree with is an extreme that I don't want gamers to cross into, but I feel like it's already too late. However, I haven't completely given up, so that's why I'm creating this video, because I want gamers to show the world that we are some of the most level-headed and open-minded people on the planet. I believe a lot of this DEI stuff is being amplified by YouTubers because right now that's what's going on in the real world. DEI is a big issue in the real world cultural problems, and it's being argued and debated and whatnot. And so I believe that YouTubers are trying to capitalize on this phenomenon, and they're trying to bring it into video games, and I say we don't let them. Most YouTubers who play video games no longer play video games for the enjoyment of them. They play them for the review's sake, or to make the next clickbait video, or to get the views and the money. It's a job for them. It's no longer about the enjoyment of video games. Most of them will paint themselves as average everyday gamers for someone who grew up with video games, and while that may be true, it's no longer who they are. As someone who used to do YouTube in the past and is currently trying to get back into YouTube but trying a different approach, I can tell you right now that clickbait and rage and capitalizing on controversial topics is exactly the way you get clicks and views, subscribers, and you grow on YouTube. And so I believe, with that being said, that a lot of the criticism aimed at Shadows and Yasuke being a main character and whatnot isn't genuine. It's to get you in your feels, to stir up your hate and your animosity towards this game or the developers for an artificial reason so they can keep making money on your engagement of their videos. Most of these people making these videos that hate on Shadows, they don't play the game, or they don't play it very well. They don't care about the game, so they went into it playing it with a negative mindset and looking for everything wrong that they could criticize for their next video, or they just don't care at all about video games and they just want to get their money. So they went into playing the game with a negative mindset, being disingenuous from the start, finding everything they could possibly criticize or say that the game does wrong or hate on, and then they put it in a video form for you to consume, so then you can see how bad the game is or how much it sucks, and then share in their opinion. And they don't give you the objective truth or the objective details about the game and hope to sway your opinion one way or another. They already hate the game, and now their goal is to convince you that you should hate the game too. So they'll say and do things in a way that's meant to manipulate you to see things from their point of view rather than objectively informing your own opinion. Most of these creators do try to come off in a objective way, and I put objective in air quotes because they're really not objective. They just want to present themselves as such to manipulate you so you're more open to the ideas that they're presenting. But the reality is that their mind is already made up, that you should hate Ubisoft for the same reasons that they do, or you should hate Assassin's Creed Shadows for the same reason that they do. It's not done in a way that's for the betterment of the game, but more so for the betterment of the YouTube video that they're creating. They hate the game, so you must hate the game. And that's basically why the culture of YouTube reviewers and YouTube gaming has become toxic for the gaming industry. Because it's no longer about the love and joy of video games, but more or less what controversies YouTubers can create about said video games to get even more clicks and views. And right now, the example that they're using, or the ideology that they're using, is DEI, which is a huge cultural and political problem right now in the world. And so they're using this to capitalize on the idea that somehow Yasuke is DEI in a video game, and they're pushing that idea or that agenda to continue to get more clicks and views. That's why I believe a lot of the controversy surrounding Shadows isn't genuine. It's artificially made up bullcrap, because at the end of the day, the average YouTuber doesn't care about the improvement of a video game or a company. They just care about their channel and what that controversy does for it. So if I'm being perfectly honest with you guys, I honestly don't think that most YouTubers care that Yasuke is black or that it's not culturally or historically accurate. I think they just care that it sells. Gamers have always tolerated creativity and always enjoyed a different approach to certain situations in video games, and I think adding Yasuke in there, making him a black samurai, is no different. I think it was a developer taking creative liberty to create an interesting character, a guy who stood out in Japan then, and turn him into something that they could use to tell a story. Tell their story. And what farther proves this point is the fact that Yasuke was used before in a video game called Neo. He was literally called the Obsidian Samurai, or Black Samurai. He was used before. Now, I've heard the arguments against this along the lines where, well, he wasn't a main character. He was a side character that you did yada 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 with. Admittedly, I didn't play Neo, so I don't know in what context Yasuke was used in that video game. However, I know he was allowed to be in that video game, and for whatever justification you give it, that doesn't change the fact that gamers and YouTubers didn't care then, so why do they care now? So I think the YouTubers and the YouTube culture is manipulating a lot of people to believe in a certain opinion that they may not otherwise believe in. So I don't blame gamers, I blame YouTubers more than anything. But I also blame Ubisoft and how they handled this, because I believe it could have been handled in a very, very different way. A different way that would have resulted in gamers being more accepting of this decision. But no matter what they would have said, no matter how they would have reacted, YouTubers would have found a way to manipulate and rile up the masses. And gamers would have grabbed their pitchforks and they would have gone along with it, because this is what has been the constant trend on YouTube and in the gaming community because of YouTubers and the YouTube culture. This is why I say it's toxic for games and gamers. It is not helping games get better. If anything, it's helping them get worse. And because of some of these controversies, a lot of games have not sold, and a lot of good studios have been closed and developers fired or let go. And that's not good for gaming, no matter how you slice it. But going back to my original point, or the original argument that Yasuke was a side character in Neo, so it was okay there, but it's not okay here, has always been a bit ridiculous to me, because this was a criticism that was formed before the game was even launched, before people even had played the game. But this was a criticism that was made by people that had no interest in playing the game, nor had they played the game yet. So they were going and harping on this as if Yasuke was the main character, when in fact he's not. He is a key character, however, and he does play a prominent role in Naoe's story. But this game isn't about him. It's about Naoe and her getting revenge for her father's death, or murder, at the hands of the cult. Now, admittedly, I'm not very far into the game, so I don't know how much more Yasuke ties in with the main story. I do know, however, you can have things like a gay relationship with him, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But from what I have seen so far, he fits relatively well. And because he was a historical figure that we didn't know much about, he was essentially a blank slate that they could use to tell an interesting story in this game. Assassin's Creed has always taken creative liberties with historical figures, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I think them adding Yasuke here is no different. Well, I think that's enough rambling for me on why I think Yasuke being added to the game isn't such a big deal. But before I move on, I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys to tell me why you think Yasuke being added to the game is such a big deal to you. Is it because it breaks immersion? Why does it break immersion? Because it's not like Yasuke didn't exist in the real world and he wasn't in Japan at the time. He was. And we also know very little about him. So they basically created a story based on a real life character. Why not enjoy a little bit of twist on actual history? I don't play Assassin's Creed for a history lesson. I play Assassin's Creed to escape in a world of fantasy and adventure, and that's exactly what they've given us. They've given us an unorthodox story with an unorthodox character that did really exist that we know very little about. It's not like they created Yasuke out of thin air and just put him in this game and made him black. Then the argument for DEI would make a little bit more sense. But instead, they didn't do that. They took an existing character and created a tale around him to tell an interesting story. And if you can see beyond his race, you will find his story interesting. At least I do. And if it's for a different reason than I just mentioned entirely, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from the community and hear from my fellow gamers on why this is such a big deal and such a bad idea, because personally, I don't believe it, nor can I see it. But maybe I'm not seeing it from your point of view. So help me understand. So moving on to the other big controversy that I've heard about this game is the fact that you can have a relationship with a non-binary character or a gay relationship in this game. And somehow that is more evidence of DEI and woke ideology being put in this game. And I have seen many people make this argument, but I also think they're very wrong, because this is not the first game to include such things. And no one is forced into this relationship path. You literally have to choose to go down it for it to happen. But the fact that you can have a relationship with a gay character or a non-binary character in this game, while this doesn't really appeal to me and I find it kind of stupid, it's no different than other games have done in the past. Games are all about giving people options. Again, not really my thing, but I'm not here for taking away their options, considering that other games have done this and have been praised for doing it, such as Mass Effect. Or how about Baldur's Gate 3, where you can not only partake in a gay relationship, but you can literally partake in some bestiality, which is crossing a line in my opinion, but again, it can be funny, and depending on how you perceive it, it's not really a big deal. Games are all about fantasy, and doing things in them that you normally wouldn't do in real life. Apparently, more people than not fantasize about doing it with a bear. To each their own. And just because I find it weird doesn't mean I want to take away their choices. As long as this doesn't become a trend, I think it's kind of funny. You know, I've rambled on about this topic for a while now, and hopefully you've made it this far. If you have, write spaghetti down in the comments, and feel free to let me know in the comments below if you want more videos like this. But I had to make this video because all I keep seeing is negative things about Assassin's Creed Shadows. And it's being criticized, but not for the reasons that it should be criticized for. It's being criticized for cultural bullshit. Cultural nonsense that is propagated and spread by YouTubers just trying to get likes, views, and clicks on their videos. Is Assassin's Creed a perfect game? No, it's not by any means. But it does have a lot going for it. And I do think it's a pretty solid game. Have I had my frustrations with it? Absolutely. And when I finally talk about the game, I will share those frustrations with you guys. But my point is if you want to play this game or you want to try Assassin's Creed in Japan, go for it. Give it a go. Give it a try. Because the game is not as bad as people are making it out to be. They're just trying to get clicks on their videos. They're trying to sell you their opinion.
don't buy it. Play the game, give it a try, and form your own opinion. And if you're on PC, you can just subscribe to Ubisoft Plus and give it a go. Now, I do realize that this video is very controversial for many reasons, and that's not my intention. But mainly, and most importantly, it's probably controversial because I've called out a lot of YouTubers, big prominent YouTubers that have shared their opinions about this game that aren't necessarily, in my opinion, genuine. If they want to come and talk to me about their opinion and explain to me why they've come to the conclusions that they've come to, I'm open to hear it. I'm all for a discussion. Because that's how you make games better. You make them better by discussing them, by talking about them, by having a healthy conversation and dialogue that allows people to be heard, that allows everyone to be heard and developers to listen. When you're shouting at developers and wishing the doom or downfall of their company or their studio because they did something in a video game that isn't what you wanted, I think that YouTubers need to be better. They need to go back to playing games for the love of the game rather than the content that they can make on YouTube and get clicks on and get paid for. And I don't believe that most of these YouTubers believe the crap that they've been saying about this game. I believe if games are going to become better and they are going to that helps no one. Want them to. We have to have a discussion and a dialogue instead of yelling and attacking developers and wishing for their downfall. Because at the end of the day, the developers and publishers have the final say. They have a creative vision, and they're going to bring that creative vision to life whether we like it or not, as evident by Yasuke in Shadows still. They had a creative vision and they brought it to life. Now, if gamers didn't truly like this for valid reasons, they had every right to express those and criticize the game for doing something that they didn't like, but they needed to do it in a more constructive way rather than destructive way, because right now things have gotten a bit ridiculous, and I think it's being fueled by YouTubers. And so, in my opinion, YouTubers have a responsibility to stop being so hyperbolic and actually try to have a conversation with valid criticism in a valid way. By doing this, I think that it will actually dictate how the company moves going forward. Because like it or not, YouTubers have a big influence, and they have the ability to affect change. And they could do this in a constructive way where gamers can actually discuss and talk about why they didn't like things instead of getting them outraged and angry. But again, I don't blame gamers here. In fact, I blame the YouTubers that are out there spreading all of this bullcrap about Shadows and calling it DEI this and DEI that, but couldn't actually explain to you if you asked, how is it DEI? Because I can't, for the life of me, see how adding a black character into a video game hurts anyone. It doesn't actually matter because it's a video game. It's not real. Lastly, I just want to say this. Ubisoft is a great company, and they've created some of my favorite games growing up, and they still create some of my favorite games now. But to attack them and wish for their downfall simply because they're heading in a direction that you don't particularly agree with is not helpful for anyone, and it's not for the betterment of games or the gaming industry. It's actually to destroy it. Just think about it for a second. Most of you watching this video probably have played or still play a Ubisoft game. A game that you really enjoy. A game that you love and you don't want to go away. What do you think happens if Ubisoft fails and goes under? In fact, Ubisoft already has a few Assassin's Creed projects announced. This was just one of them. And so if gamers approach this in a more mature and proper manner, they could actually end up influencing the next Assassin's Creed game. But instead what's happening is there are people who call themselves gamers or a big fan of Assassin's Creed actually attacking other people for enjoying this game. They're actually calling you a shill or saying that you sold out blah 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 if you have anything positive at all to say about this game. There are people who haven't even played the game who will openly tell you that they haven't played the game, and they won't because it's Ubisoft slop and it's woke and it's this and that. So they haven't even experienced the game and what it has to offer, but they're telling other people not to play it simply because of their preconceived opinion that was probably formed off of watching a negative YouTube video. I can't tell you how many so-called gamers I have seen shit on this game or talk shit about this game when they haven't even played it. And if these people are gamers, then it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't particularly understand why gamers' first response is to attack a company and hope for its downfall the moment a company crosses a line or does something that they don't particularly like. And that is why I don't believe that it's gamers. I believe it's manufactured outrage started by YouTubers for clicks and views that have somehow become the overwhelming loud vocal opinion on Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I don't believe it's the majority's opinion on the game. I just believe it's the loudest, the most vocal opinion out there, and that is the problem because that influences the way people perceive and see video games. I truly do think YouTube has become toxic for video games and video games culture, and I want to go back to a time where we weren't so critical or analytical over every single video game, and we enjoyed the games for what they were instead of what they were. And on this YouTube channel, going forward, I promise to always do that. Judge a game for what it is rather than what it isn't. Talk about features I wish it had, but not shit on it because it doesn't have what I expected. There is no point of me trying to come on here and convince you to hate a game that you might otherwise like, because our personal opinion on things is very subjective to us, our worldview, and what we like and dislike. So I can't sit here and tell you that my opinion on a game is going to be what you feel about a game. Now that doesn't mean that we may not share the same opinion or have the same opinion. I'm just not going to come on here and try to influence you to see it my way, to share my opinion. But if we do happen to share the same opinion, I see that as a happy little coincidence. As I said, there's people who haven't even played this game who now simply won't touch it because of these YouTube videos being made, and I've seen the comments on these videos, but a lot of them would express how they were excited to experience the game and play the game before they watched those videos. So these people could actually be missing out on a good game and a good opportunity, something that they might enjoy simply because someone else told them not to. And that happened with me in Star Wars Outlaws. I put off playing the game because the YouTube consensus, or the YouTube gaming consensus, was that it was a bad game and I would be disappointed. So I put off playing it because I didn't want to be disappointed by yet another Star Wars experience. Turns out that opinion was wrong. Or at least it wasn't accurate. It wasn't genuine representation of what people truly felt. It wasn't the gaming world's opinion, it was the YouTube gaming world's opinion. And those are two very different things. Anyways, this is a long-winded rant. I could probably keep going, but I don't see the point. If Yasuke being in this game really breaks immersion and is really that much of a problem for you, then this game probably isn't made for you. However, if you are a huge Assassin's Creed fan and liked a lot of them, especially a game like Assassin's Creed Origins, then this is a game for you. So why aren't you playing it? I would encourage you to ask yourself this question. Does the fact that Yasuke, or the gay relationship, or the game not being 100% culturally accurate actually bother you? Or do you just care about these things because that's what YouTubers and some people in the community are telling you to care about? Because in my opinion, if these things truly bother you, then I would encourage you to ask yourself why, because that's a deeper issue. Games have always been about player choice and diversity and inclusion and allowing players to have choice. The choice to do what they want, where they want, to who they want, whether it's good or bad. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that someone in some game studio isn't pushing some woke ideology and trying to change the culture in that studio. And when it does hurt the video game or takes away from the video game in any way or breaks immersion, then of course gamers will push back and should push back. Battlefield 5 is a good example of this. But truly, I don't believe that adding Yasuke here is a form of DEI. Yasuke existed. And whether or not he existed in history differently than the way he's portrayed in this game, it doesn't matter, because he did exist. And he did exist in Japan at the time that this game takes place. So it's not hard to imagine him being in the video game. By adding him here, they took a huge creative risk that I for one applaud, because I love when developers take risks and try to innovate or create new experiences for us to enjoy. And I believe that's what we have here. We have an interesting character with an interesting story being told in a place where he normally wouldn't fit. And ultimately, the choice is yours whether or not you're going to use him throughout the game. There are a few key elements in the story where using him is necessary, but for the most part, the choice is yours. And you can choose whether or not you want to get to know Yasuke and his story more, or just play as Nawe. Or you can choose not to play the game entirely and go for a more authentic Japanese experience. And there are games out there that will give you that experience. Again, player choice is the ultimate thing that gamers should want. Anyway guys, if you've chosen to stay with me up until this point in this video, let me know by telling me that hippos are awesome in the comments below, because, well, they are, and only haters will deny it. And hit that like button, because you've made it this far. Why not just hit that like button and help the video out? I mean, you watching definitely does that, but a simple like will also do that as well. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Hippo out.